of the week. See if I can get something resembling a slow fade here. The answer is probably no. Yeah, see, like at about 4, it starts to thud. That's just, it drives me crazy. So now that it is the top of the hour and we are starting hour number 2, that means it is time for Kaylor Hodges to drop in for the At the USL show. And it is a time to discuss everything going on in the USL. Otherwise, if we're bringing in Kaylor and he's hosting something else other than the USL show, and we're talking about things other than the USL, that might work.
Good point.
So, USL Championship, and I know we're going to talk about League One as well. For those who missed it, we have an interview with Ian Cameron, the head coach of South Georgia Tormenta, up on the network as well. Caught up with him yesterday. And we're going to be doing that as teams here in the footprint get knocked out, as we'll sit there and we'll kind of catch up with them, get some reviews of the season and all this kind of stuff. From 30,000 feet, you look at the eastern side of things and you're going, what in the blue hell happened here in the opening round? So what in the blue hell happened in the Eastern Conference, Kaylor?
Last week when I came on,
you did. You did.
I talked about Pittsburgh and Detroit, and I said there's one team in the East that can beat Pittsburgh, and it's Detroit. And they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of happened exactly how I said it would. It was going to be a miracle goal in regular time or PKs. And guess what? It was a miracle goal. Lou City goes down to Memphis, and Aiden McFadden, who I said was going to be a key part in this game, unfortunately was the key moment in the game of hitting the post. And we saw the aftermath, which was frankly depressing, where according to fans who were there, he didn't leave the penalty spot for over 20 minutes. He just stood there. And, that is just heart-wrenching. There's no worse way to lose. And I think hitting the bar or hitting the post might be the worst way. I'd rather them sky at 20 feet than hit the post.
Yeah.
Because the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And Lou City in the end is inevitable. It feels like they always end up here. Charleston takes on a very different indie team without their superstars. And there was some reactions from indie fans saying, if 2 or 3 people cause us to go from winning the game to losing 5-0, maybe we didn't deserve to be here, which I think is an overreaction on their part. That said, the loss hurts, but they weren't the indie team that we thought they were going to be, quite literally. And Birmingham goes down and thrashes Tampa Bay against my expectations. It happened the exact opposite way I thought it would, but also in the weird way I thought it would. I said if they were going to win, they were going to have to congest the midfield. I didn't think that playing the 4-1-4-1 that they could.
Yep.
And they still congested the midfield. Tampa Bay, I don't think, had a single shot again, which is, I think, the second time that's happened this year against Birmingham, where they've had 1 or fewer shots on target. The East was chaos, absolutely ridiculous. And the West was pretty much chalk until you talk about what happened in Phoenix versus San Diego, which, as I said, was going to be the most entertaining game of the week. And dear Lord, did it even surpass my expectations? That was ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, it was crazy. And you're you look at, I want to take this from the East. I want to go East to West. And since the East is our bailiwick here, this side of the Mississippi. And, it's you've got a guy like Trevor James. He's in his last year on the touchline. He's booting himself upstairs. He's getting booted upstairs to an executive position after this season. And you mentioned it last week. Detroit City, they're going to muck it up. They're going to sit there and just try to grind out a result. They're the 8. We know what we're going to do. And it's up to you to try to break down what Detroit City wants to do. It's like be clinical, find that opportunity, put it in the back of the net, or wait until the bitter end to try to figure something out, because you've got Nate Steinwasser in net, who has been known to be and the thing is, I think for those of us who are like USL Nicks and will pay attention to everything, he's one of the most underappreciated. I'm not going to say underrated, but underappreciated keepers, I think, in the USL Championship because of where he is. I don't think Detroit City gets a whole lot of pub, and I'll ask Neil Rule this when we have him on the show tomorrow morning. about a guy like Nate Steinwasser who just kind of flies below the radar because of where Detroit City is.
Nate Steinwasser, I've seen a lot of great goalkeepers being able to do what I do with Birmingham Legion, being able to get onto the field. I get down early just to watch the other team's goalkeepers. I've always had that infatuation with goalkeepers,
Yeah.
right? And I've seen Waite. He's a Jamaican international capped at the senior level. Great goalkeeper. I've seen Callender for Inter Miami. I've seen Brad Guzan, who he has a career that people would kill to have. I saw Rocco Rios Novos. I've seen Paul Blanchette, who they all bring something different. Blanchette was just the best, shot stopper I've ever seen. Rios Novos has the best footwork I've ever seen out of a goalkeeper.
Really?
Straight up. His footwork is immaculate. That said, between a U.S. men's national team player in Callender, between Brad Guzan, who, again, U.S. men's national team glory, all these guys I mentioned, Nate Steinwasser had the most impressive warm-up I've ever seen, ever. From MLS down, he caught everything.
Wow.
He had over 50 balls shot at him. He did not drop a single one. And his footwork, is it as clean as Rocco? No. Is he exactly the exact shot stopper that, Paul Blanchette is? No. Is he the big physical presence of Drake Callender? No. But if he gets his paw on it, you're not getting the follow-up. That's the thing, is that's what makes him so good. Yes, he can parry it, but if he gets his paws on it, you're not getting a follow-up, which is where most of these like little scrubby goals kind of happen. And he is so impressive. I've never seen anything like it.
So a point made by one of our folks in the Twitch pitch, Abby, who's a Fort Lauderdale Strikers fan from the NASL day. She says, I think goalies are best when they've played other positions in their past. And I think what that does is it gives you that appreciation, that three-dimensional look of so it's almost like a defensive driving course. When you get to play other positions, you understand the reactions of folks in front of you, so you can react to that when you're between the sticks.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that Rocco has going for him. I mean, he at times, in Koke Vegas, same thing, basically just another defender and just incredible with the ball at their feet. But you can definitely tell which ones are the ones that played other positions, because I don't know if Paul Blanchette's ever done anything different, but he looks like a guy who actually wants to be hit in the face with the ball. He's just that kind of guy. Just seems like just natural shot stopper, doesn't do a whole lot else. Meanwhile, guys like Nate, guys like Rocco, guys like Koke Vegas, you can tell that they've done other things, and it's really obvious.
What does this say about Pittsburgh, other than the fact that Bob Lilly is probably still yelling at his club there at Highmark? They've not been allowed to leave since the weekend. He probably still has them there. Maybe he brings in food and water for them so he can continue to yell at them. And so, like, if you're on the waterfront right there on the river in Pittsburgh, it is Thursday morning, and you probably still see Bob Lilly yelling at his Riverhounds team as you're heading to work on a Thursday morning. What does this say does this say more about what Detroit City did or what Pittsburgh didn't?
I think it's hard, because when you look at Bob Lilly in this, or specifically the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, but it's kind of hard to separate the two at this point. Technically, if you want to be very technical, Pittsburgh only has their one playoff win last year against Birmingham Legion, go through on penalties, technically doesn't count. And then they 7-0'd Birmingham 5 years ago. That was their one win. Last year, they blew a 2-goal lead, I do believe, to Lou City away in the final 15 minutes. And then in this game, they are pretty much, them and Sacramento are your only two teams that people think are going to win it all, and they don't. I think it's kind of hard to separate the two, because I don't think Pittsburgh gets to where they are without Bob Lilly. But if you're a Pittsburgh fan or a USL fan, you kind of have to wonder, would somebody else get us farther in the playoffs? Who cares if we're the 1 seed if we get knocked out? It's hard to say, but I think this is more of a praise Detroit City than anything, because there was some chat, and we talked about this on the USL show. There was chat of, well, Pittsburgh absolutely dominated them. Detroit did not do enough to win. And there were some Detroit fans saying, actually, we dominated the game because we obviously won. I think Detroit City just said, we're going to play our game. Who cares? Like, it's not like they are a 3-goal a game team that just got shut down to 0.07 XG,
Right.
right? They knew what they were. We are a defensive-minded first team. We are a defense-only minded team, really. And we'll let you shoot. We'll let you have the ball. We don't care. We love to do the grindy stuff. We will run you into the dirt in the sense that you're just going to be frustrated. And then Dominic Gasso with probably the goal of the playoffs, an unreal volley, and the only one that can come close is Arthur Rogers in League One with a real deal Olympico, not just I shot one from the corner and it snuck in. This was, I think he actually meant to do it. Yep. And so it that's what it takes for Detroit City to win, and I think they kind of knew that. And did they dominate the stats or the play? No, but also they did their game and they won, so it worked.
Lou City goes through, we mentioned the heartbreak for Memphis 901 and Stephen Glass, but for Lou City, when you've got a coach like Danny, who I think really has the future ahead of him, how good of a coaching job, considering all of the chaos. I mean, literally, Lou City to me seemed to be one of the more streaky teams in the Eastern Conference this season. And now you get this win. This really could be one of those things that could spur momentum for you going forward. And could we see the Lou City, when we think of the stereotypic Lou City teams, the one that goes storming through playoffs and makes it to the last game of the year? Is this a springboard for them in your mind, or are there still some issues, even though you've got a 5-8 coming up?
I think there's still issues. When we did the USL show, we put out a graphic that says these are the matches that we predict, but we explain our thought process. Everybody picked Lou City to win this game versus Detroit, but nobody wanted to. We all were just like, Detroit can do this. They have the defense. Lou City hasn't proved that they can score. And this is a team that struggles to score. And this is a team that doesn't allow people to score. And we said, but it's kind of Lou City and they're at home. And, we kind of played that song and dance. I think there's a lot to be desired. Zemla, their goalkeeper, came out with his hair on fire at the beginning of the year, just played out of his skull, and then frankly has been bang average since his hot streak. And I kind of questioned his goalkeeping in the penalties, and the penalties are a crapshoot. I get that, but there's a couple of them that you sit there and say, you should probably save that, and you shouldn't say that on a penalty. There is no world where you should look at a keeper and say you should save that on a penalty, but there's a couple. I think if they're going to do it, they have the best opportunity. They're getting to play at home as the 5 seed. That doesn't happen.
No.
And they're given a redemption chance. They are given the opportunity to redeem themselves. And if they're going to make the run, if they are going to make the Eastern Conference Championships for the 9th year in a row, I think, this is the time to do it. This is the team to do it against. But just like I said last week, there's nothing I trust about this Lou City team.
Then down at the bottom, I know a lot of folks are looking at Charleston and how they thumped Indy and putting 5 on the board and just walking out of Patriots Point going, yeah, we took care of business. And then, you mentioned Birmingham and what it was like for Birmingham to go on the road to Al Lang and shut out Tampa Bay, which I think was probably one of the more stunning results in the weekend, because if you take Detroit's and you say Detroit City's is number 1, yours is either 1A or number 2 there at home base for the USL show. When you look at this 3-7, I still don't know what Charleston team I'm going to be getting at times. And this could be an opportunity, if Birmingham has its head screwed on straight, to get the win here, even though it is at Patriots Point.
So this is going to be an interesting one, because I think it depends on if Legion come out with the same fire.
Right.
They go and get a 3-0 win, but it was a true team performance. And one thing I said was, this was not one player playing out of his skull. This was not just Tabor Ateka Preston playing out of his skull, having the game of his life. Everything felt like it could be replicated. This was not a couple of guys playing the best game of their career. Everything felt like it could be replicated. That said, you're looking at future probably $1 million transfer in Matthew Corcoran is going to be gone for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Mexico's team, but I'm going to bet a pretty penny that Fidel Barajas is going to be on the way too.
Yeah.
You're losing 2 superstars, but that said, I think the superstar that Charleston is losing is a bigger deal. Matthew Corcoran was not in the starting 11. He's been kind of out in the fringes. I think Legion kind of knew that this announcement was coming.
Yeah.
And said, we're going to roll with a different 11. You can come at the end. Meanwhile, Barajas, when he's on the pitch, Charleston goes. And it's kind of that simple. Without them, I mean, Marcanic is really good. He is really, really good. He was the goal scorer last time these two teams played 2 weeks ago. But, I think that this is a much different side. This is going to be a close game. I wouldn't be shocked by either team coming out with the win. I think Legion have a lot of fire right now. I think in a weird way, I think if some Charleston fans are saying we scored 5, we used up our goals, which it is not a real thing. We all know that's not a real thing, but I think there is a little part of our brain of what if we did?
Yeah.
And that has to get to players just a little bit, maybe not as much as fans, but just a little bit. And I think it's going to be a close one. I think that this Legion team showed that they can get a team victory. Charleston has been a team that swept them this year. The only sweep of the round two at all came in this particular matchup, and Legion probably have a score they want to settle. Like, yeah, you beat us in the regular season, but this is the playoffs. We want to take you out now. This is when it matters.
Any concern between the sticks, Van Oekel and Spangenberg? Did I notice a swap out at the half or late first half that I mentioned? Did I see that right?
Yeah, so Trevor Spangenberg came in for Matt Van Oekel. Matt Van Oekel took what looked like a cleat to the chest at the end of the first half from Cal Jennings. Turns out, no, it was his leg. And for people who are into seeing injuries, Matt Van Oekel, Matt, I'm getting on to you, dude. He posted his injury without the not safe for work thing. And so I couldn't sleep. So I went to the bathroom, and at 4 a.m, that was the first thing that showed up on it's this gory, gaudy injury, which I'm not going to describe. And that's like, Matt, why? What's wrong with you? But it was his leg, but he's been back in training. That said, I think Legion fans are happy with whoever. I think personally, the best Legion played all year, Spangenberg was in net. When Legion were at their hottest, Spangenberg was in net. Is that anecdotal? Maybe. But I think Legion fans are comfortable with whoever, and I think that the players are comfortable with whoever. This is not a GK1 and a GK2.5. This is, I think, to a lot of fans and probably to some of the players too, this is a GK1, 1A, 1B. And so I think there's not a lot of concern for Legion fans.
Kaylor Hodges at the USL show, hanging out with us, breaking down everything USL Championships, USL League One, and the playoffs as we've gotten out of the opening round in the championship down to the Final Four in League One. On the left-hand side, on the Western Conference in the championship, it was chalky, but what you've got is you've got 3 heavyweights in Sacramento, San Antonio, and Orange County making it to the second round, taking care of business like we thought that they would.
Yeah, I mean, Sacramento did it early, and they did the Sacramento thing, which was we score early. We don't care about scoring anymore because you're not going to. Could care less. You're not going to score on us. And they did everything to shut down New Mexico. They knew what to do, and Jack Gurr was just having an absolute field show over on that, right-hand side. It's always a pleasure to watch him play. You go down to San Antonio where San Antonio goes through on what probably got featured on when playing it out from the back goes wrong. And that said, if you take that goal out of consideration, not fair, but if you do, say this is a 0-0 game, one of the most entertaining 0-0 matches I've ever watched. It was truly back and forth. It was nervy. It was exciting. San Antonio goes through. So you get San Antonio versus Sacramento, which if I remember Ryan Allen saying on the show, San Antonio has not picked up a win in Sacramento since 2021.
Okay.
Sacramento doesn't lose at home, and this is something that I drive home on the show every single time. I think if I have my numbers correct, Sacramento in the last 2 calendar years has only lost 3 times at home.
Wow.
I call it the den of the indomitable, and you cannot beat them at home. You just can't. But if there's any team that probably can, it's the team that are the self-proclaimed mentality monsters, right? That's the team that you kind of back. Let's go down a little bit farther where you go to Orange County versus El Paso, and El Paso probably gets hosed a little bit with an awful call at the top of the box. And Benny Diaz got a lot of flack for the free kick that went in. Milan Olowski scores from the free kick, which a lot of people said that shouldn't have been a foul, and it shouldn't have been. I think because people said, well, he kind of guessed and he went the other way. I personally think where Benny Diaz messed up was putting 4 people in the wall. I understand that it's like 22 yards out and you want as many people there, but with the way he set it up, he had a 4-man wall, a person gap, a 5th man, and then there were 2 Orange County players. When the shot was taken, it turned into a 7-man wall. Benny Diaz had no idea when and where that ball was struck. He couldn't see it.
Yeah.
If it were me, not a professional goalkeeper, obviously, I would have set up 3 on the far post and said, you can beat me there. You're so close that it's hard to get it up and down. You can beat me there. That way you can at least get a little bit of a visual on the ball, because I don't think he had any clue when and where it was struck at all. From there, Benny Diaz, thank you. Benny Diaz had a really great game, but just like I said preseason with El Paso, I trust the defense, but who was going to score? And that was kind of what it was. And they're facing off against Phoenix versus San Diego, who one of the most entertaining matches I've ever watched.
Yep.
Also, you look at this match and you kind of get reminded Phoenix are one of the biggest villains that we've ever seen in the USL.
Really?
They love it. Do you know, if you go to Phoenix Twitter, they are so happy they were the ones that killed San Diego. There is not a single hint of I hate it for San Diego. That was a good rivalry.
No remorse at 38th and Washington, is there?
None. Absolutely none. And I talked about it. They have the best 3 to 4 man attack you can get. Formea, whichever one is pronounced. I don't remember. You have Armanakis, you have Arteaga, you have Danny Trejo, not that one. And they are all playing and they are incredible on the attack. And they're kind of buzzing. And I think if you're looking at Orange County, we are doing a USL show, pick 'em, and we're just trying to see how many people we got. And of our 100 people that have responded to the Google form so far, this one is a 50 point something to 40 point something.
Okay.
It's only separated by, if I look real fast, 3 votes.
Wow.
3 votes. People think that El Paso versus Phoenix is as close as it gets because Phoenix just played incredible, and they thrive in this villain role. That said, they played on a Sunday. They get 1 less day of rest, and they also, frankly, it was an emotional victory.
Yes,
the last minute kick to frankly kill a franchise.
Yep.
Players, that some of them take on the villain role too. That's an emotional thing. Orange County gets to go back home. It's one of those that I think that if you're Orange County, you got that extra day. You didn't have to travel, and your fans know what Phoenix is. This is also a rivalry, and so the fans know I trust Orange County here, but this is also one that if Phoenix just goes on to their, Darth Vader march to the playoff final, not shocked at all, because this is just who they are.
You got in the Halloween candy. Traditionally, what we do is we do juice boxes, and when it comes to looking at matchups, you have 2 teams who are on the minus side of the Reese's peanut butter cups here, since this is what we like to give out during Halloween. Charleston is on the minus side at a minus 116. Lou City's on the minus side at a minus 154. Sacramento is on the plus side to win in 90 minutes at a plus 122. Orange County is a plus 112. Phoenix is a plus 204, as is San Antonio, to win outright in 90 minutes. So if you're looking to put some Reese's Halloween candy on some folks, San Antonio and Phoenix might not be bad selections here coming up in round 2.
I take Phoenix.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm putting any of the chips, I cannot understate Sacramento does not lose at home.
Right.
They just don't. And this is a team we saw get 20,000 fans. This is a team that can get 10,000 on any given night, plus playoffs. Yes, they're going to show out. I don't know if San Antonio can do it. There. Phoenix, on the other hand, this is one of those that somehow they shut down Milan Olowski and say you can go to Europe a couple weeks early, pal, and they win, 3-1. I'm not shocked at all. That I'm a bit, that's where my brain would go. But also El Paso at home. Yeah, El Paso. Wow, Orange County at home. Yeah, you also have to back them. I think that's good money either way. If whichever one you want to put it on, I think that put your Reese's on it. Yeah, don't be shocked by it.
No, but a plus 204 putting your Reese's on a team in Phoenix. That's where I would be leaning.
Yeah.
If you have some spare Reese's in the freezer, go for Phoenix in the round of 4 in the Western Conference. Before you go, League One is down to the Final Four, and I also wanted to get your comments on John Harkes. It's amazing what happens when you reseed. You end up with Charlotte crossing over to take on the Murder Owls in Union Omaha, and Northern Colorado with Trevor Ammon, the League One Golden Boot. It's great to see what Eamon Zayed has done there with Hailstorm and going to North Carolina FC for your Final Four in USL League One.
I think Ryan said it for North Carolina, Northern Colorado. We desperately wish that those were reversed because North Carolina was the best road team in the USL League One this last year with 11 road wins. Meanwhile, Northern Colorado was the best home team in USL League One with 11 home wins. Instead, reverse fixture doesn't work that way. Yep. I think that this Northern Colorado North Carolina match is going to be your most entertaining one.
Yeah,
I think that this is going to be one that if you are looking to put on a League One match, I mean, yes, Amon is the guy who is going to steal the praise because he got a hat trick against Forward Madison. I get that, but it was also kind of an end of the match hat trick where Forward Madison was chasing and, not saying it wasn't real, but also it's not like he got that through the first 60.
Same state, yeah.
Yeah. If you are looking at this North Carolina team, it's young, it's scrappy, and it's fun. McLaughlin is crazy. He's so good. And then you also have oh my gosh, Jaden Cervania, who is a real deal talent, Puerto Rican international, very young. And he plays the 10 or that left wing really well. He is super fluid in where he can go. It's going to be a fun matchup. I will say this though. Union Omaha just got a week break and they went 14 unbeaten. You have to wonder if they are a little bit bitter about it because yes, you get the week off to recover and your body gets the rest it needs, but also they were on a heater of all heaters. You have to wonder if them getting that rest got them off their game a little bit. Meanwhile, Charlotte goes down 1-0 to Greenville, and then they just put up 3. And they have this guy that comes off the bench named Dane Kelly. Ever heard of him? All-time USL leading goal scorer.
Yeah, I heard of him.
He's their bench player. And he's a guy that you can call on if you need. Charlotte's kind of running hot. And while I do trust this back line of Union Omaha, I trust all the pieces that Union Omaha has. You have to wonder what this week of rest does for them. As for Harkes, we had kind of been hearing the rumblings for a little bit that this was on the way.
Yeah.
And that said, you cannot understate what he did in Greenville. If you have a chance to go to Greenville, this is, mostly Atlanta based. If you have a chance to take that 2.5 hour drive up to Greenville, there are Liberty and there are Greenville Triumph stickers everywhere. There's not a single storefront that does not have the green and blue on it somewhere. Hearts is a key part of that. You kind of have to wonder what's next for him. You say, is it going to be maybe an MLS assistant?
DC United head coach. That's what my gut tells me.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. I also, if I'm thinking, hey, maybe he's going to stay in the USL sphere, a team that you mentioned earlier with their head coach getting promoted, John Harkes with this Detroit City side would be disgustingly good. He's last year, and it's his 4 years in Greenville, defensively minded coach who this year was able to get goals, was able to change his system. This Detroit City team is already built to defend, and he was able to get goals out of places you didn't think they would. He is the perfect coach to take over this current Detroit City roster, in my opinion. But in all reality, he's probably making that move to MLS.
All right, give me the plug. Hit the promo for me with at the USL show.
At the USL show, every single Tuesday, we're live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. And it should go up the next day, assuming that I'm alive and cognizant. That's really what's going on. I said it last week. We're going to start the history of the USL, which is a super exciting series we're starting to talk about. And there's a couple things in the work. I talked about how I'm not a professional goalkeeper, but there may be a series starting soon with a couple of them. So just want to give a little hint, a little sprinkle of that. It could be possibly on the way.
Looking forward to it. So, Kayla, you're due back with any and all of at the USL show parties at this same time next week, and we'll get into as the teams cut in half one more time. We'll talk conference finals on the championship side and a final on the League One side. Thanks for hanging out.
Let's do it. Thanks.
All right, that's Kaylor Hodges. He's at Kaylor Hodges. I know that surprises you on the Twitters. He's at Kaylor Hodges at the USL show on the 280 character app. And it's cool to have them come on every week, especially during the postseason, to break things down. Like I said, Neil Rule, the play-by-play voice for Le Rouge, will be on at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.